Hi, I'm Larry Nespoli with the New Jersey Council of County Colleges. At New Jersey's community colleges, we believe that our students, as well as all citizens, need to be informed about the important issues facing higher education. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, working for great public schools for every child. Wells Fargo, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship. The law firm of Gibbons PC, Cohn Resnick, providing accounting, tax, and advisory services for more than 90 years. And by New Jersey Natural Gas, proud to support education in our communities. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger and NJ.com, Everything Jersey. And by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and its monthly magazine, New Jersey Business.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Steve Adubato, back. I mean, really by popular demand, Dr. Donald Sebastian, Senior Vice President for Research and Development, NJIT. Let's get right into this. We were talking before we got into the air, and I want you to jump right into this. Big on partnerships overseas.
Sure.
What's going on in China? Why is it relevant to folks here, and how does it relate to jobs?
So you can imagine that in a school like ours, technical schools have historically had students who come from Asia, from India, from Taiwan when I was in school, and then when we opened up the doors to mainland China. Increasingly, those students have gone back home. As opposed to entering our workforce, there have been great opportunities for them to join and become industrial leaders and governmental leaders back home. And we're now beginning to find an opportunity to reap the advantage of having those kinds of relationships with international firms. And so you now have China as a booming economy. That's looking to get smart, to be innovative in areas, not just be the producer of commodity materials or even like an iPhone, the producer of high-end materials to somebody else's specifications, but to be a thought leader as well.
Give us a concrete example.
Yeah, well, so an example that we're working with, we just signed an agreement with the China South Rail Company. Now,
the China South Rail Company.
Yes, CSR is their acronym. We know that China is developing a nationwide bullet train.
We're actually looking at the signing right there.
There you go. 200-mile-an-hour trains. You know, imagine. I think it's great to be able to take the Acela from Newark to Washington and get there. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, but these will go arguably twice as fast.
Twice as fast?
Twice as fast. Right? They already have Acela-like trains all over the place. So this is a huge opportunity, and they're looking for us now not to help them make better bullet trains. They know how to do that. That's their business. But how can they start to integrate other kinds of technical competencies that move it up yet another notch? So for example, they're interested in the infusion of wireless communications. Not just, although it's certainly important, for customer satisfaction. So you can sit in the lounge and stream videos to entertain you as you're whistling from Beijing to Shanghai. But there's also the whole infrastructure of the train itself and the train system.
What does that mean, infrastructure of the train itself?
For example, so we all know our cars these days, right, are highly instrumented. We used to be able to flip up the hood and do stuff ourselves, and now it's all computer controlled. Well, now imagine if you now have a system that you want to control that's, what, 5, 10 cars long, whistling along at 190 miles an hour. The idea that you can take electronics, and not just sensors, but computers down to little tiny dime-sized things, that you could have everything electronically and computer controlled. Wireless communications becomes a very important technology to allow you to make all those interconnections. So now a computer in the cockpit not only helps you connect back to the central scheduling depot, connect to the external signaling technologies, let the station know whether you're on time or behind schedule, but also becomes an important element of how you control the entire braking systems, the HVAC systems, the power systems, all of the sophistication that's necessary to keep that thing on the track whistling where it should go from point of origin to destination.
But here's the tricky part. I'm sure people are blown away by what you're saying. I am. I'm stunned by the potential, and you're just scratching the surface. Now, the question becomes, bringing it back home, someone says, okay, so what does that mean to us here in the U.S. Where's the impact for us, you say?
Well, so that's well put. And one of the reasons we pursue these things so vigorously is we think there are huge opportunities to be developing jobs here in the United States for producing those sorts of things
Explain
that make
how
no
that
sense.
would work.
Well, you don't have to look any farther than what you probably have in your garage. So many of the cars on the road now have Japanese automotive manufacturer nameplates, Korean automotive manufacturer nameplates, European. BMW, Volkswagen of America, they produce in the Carolinas. Honda, Nissan, Toyota, they all produce in the United States. So those cars are being built with parts made in American machine shops, assembled by Americans being employed by factories here in the United States. The same opportunities exist as we start to see things grow in China, where the products are no longer gadgets in Walmart or more expensive electronics like the iPhones that we wear on our hip that are assembled there and can be stuck into containerized shipping, and thousands of them can come into the port in one shot. Now you talk about locomotives, or as we may talk in another relationship, large-scale building construction materials. These are things that really need to be produced much closer to the point of consumption. And that's where we would have opportunities to develop the relationships and the partnerships so those companies begin to source their materials and do their production here in the States.
But doctor, does that also relate, you talked about building materials. I also know you're doing a lot of research around solar.
Great.
Explain to us the potential there, the partnerships there, and relate it back again to jobs.
Okay, so another relationship like the locomotive relationship that was born out of an alum who went back home and became successful. Xingang Pan, Dr. Pan, was an electrical engineering graduate who went back to China and became the CEO of a company that produces raw materials that go into next generation solar cells. We call it thin film technology.
Thin film technology.
Right? The important point is that it doesn't require deposition on a glass plate like what we see on roofs and in solar
We're
fields
talking
now.
about these shingles for homes?
Yeah, yeah. So the idea is it can be on a flexible backing or substrate. And you now can have, as you're seeing in the picture, examples like Spanish roof tile or the conventional asphalt shingle form factor, which is producing energy. And you go one step beyond that and you can begin to think, well, if I can do that, why not solar siding and solar shutters and solar windows? And since anything that's exposed to the sun can join into the fray for producing solar energy. When I first went over almost 3 years ago now.
This is in China.
In China, to meet with various partners of this company, I began to see a strategy that they were forming around what is now referred to as building integrated photovoltaics. Much like we just described, the idea that everything exposed to the sun becomes a partner in producing energy, but more importantly, also distributed energy management. So instead of smokestacks in Kearney, or windmills off the shore, or a solar field instead of a brownfield, and having to then pipe all that energy through high tension lines, ultimately down to what comes into your home, you now think about a strategy in which intelligence in the system is managing what you're producing and using in your house and sharing with your neighbors and moving on down the line.
Don, you see this down the road?
Oh, absolutely.
How far down the road?
Well, the possibilities are there. If you look at your telephone poles today in New Jersey, you'll see an experiment in distributed energy generation that is a partnership with our utility PSE&G and Petrosolar, a New Jersey-based company.
You don't think it's that far away?
It's all possible. It's all possible now.
Don Sebastian, Dr. Sebastian, I want to thank you for joining us and telling us not only what's possible, but what is very likely, but R&D is the key and continuing partnerships. Thank you, Don.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Keep educating us.
Thanks for having me back.
Stay right there. One-on-one will continue right after this. Amazing stuff.
We used up the time.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, Ph.D.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato, not in the studio, but at the AT&T Global Network Operations Center. We're here with Michael Singer, AVP, Mobile Cloud Access Management Security, AT&T Business Marketing. You have a long and very important title, do you not?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, there's a lot of areas where we want to grow and develop new capabilities, and that title says some of those places we're going. You know, mobile's very important, cloud's very important, access management. So we're kind of spread where we have capabilities in the security area.
Yeah, we're at the GNOC, if you will. Again, for those who have not seen our other segments from the GNOC, put the GNOC in perspective. It is?
This is a one-of-a-kind global network operations center. It's where they have all the intelligence and the visibility into what's going on worldwide on AT&T's global network.
Great. There are several areas I want to touch on, Michael. Issues of security. There was a worm back in 2003, an SQL slammer worm, a computer worm. Just as an example, was a real problem. How does the security operation that we're talking about deal with that? How does GNOC deal with that? And why is that so significant?
Well, that particular worm in January 2003 was considered a big wake-up call because it was a worm that went around the world in very little time, infected lots and lots of systems that people wouldn't have expected to be vulnerable to this sort of a thing, a flash worm spreading around the world. Those machines then spent all their time generating more of that traffic to try to infect other users. And when we saw how quickly it spread around the world, how much traffic was being generated, we made a conscious decision going forward that we're going to watch for these worms spreading across the internet.
How do you see them?
It's traffic analysis, so flow data, net flow data, and we have an expected value for all the protocols and ports, just like the rest of the NOC has expected calls and expected text messages.
NOC, the Network Operations Center.
Operations Center. So we're using their approach that they've been using for decades. We've been doing that in the 21st century for cybersecurity. And you spot these spikes in traffic, and then an analyst will dig in and say, well, what's that all about? You know, what software uses that protocol and port? Is there a vulnerability in that software? Does it look like it's spreading? That we cover the worm algorithm, the spreading from one to many.
A worm algorithm? Are you serious?
Yeah, and worm alarms pop out of the worm algorithm. So we started watching for worms, and then the next big change was to bots.
To bots?
So robot, you know, a computer that is being used by someone else. They're remotely controlling it. It's their bot that they own. And these bot operators or bot masters, you know, bot herders, they're also called. You know, we see their activity every day. We started out watching IRC channels because that's where they were doing their communication.
IRC channels.
Yeah, Internet Relay Chat was a kind of like a backdoor way to have these computers all talking to each other and controlling these computers around the world. And we saw the attackers make it shift. They shifted to HTTP traffic where they could hide with all the web traffic the browsers have. So we're watching IRC botnets still, but also a whole new set of web-based botnets.
You're constantly trying to stay ahead of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are very innovative. They're very fast. So we do our best to be innovative and fast. We have a bot algorithm. There you go, watching these bots. And then we see the different characteristics of different bots out on the net, what they're up to. We want to make sure that AT&T has a lot of address space. We want to make sure that we aren't
What does
contributing.
that mean, address space?
So the internet, you have IP addresses. The old addresses were kind of short, you know, 4 blocks of numbers, IPv4. The new ones are really long, have numbers and letters. So we, as an operator and a carrier, are responsible for a very large block of internet address space that we're using for our network, or our customers are using it. And we want to make sure that we're not out there spreading malware. We're not out there spreading worms. We're not out there controlling these botnets from our space. So we want to look at that data as it's coming in and make sure that if there are issues, the same day, you know, right as we're seeing it, we're taking care of those problems.
What do you do? I mean, you say taking care of it. Explain it from a consumer, customer point of view. What do you do?
Okay. Now, it depends on who's responsible for that asset. If it's an AT&T asset, obviously we have more control. We have support groups who are already responsible for that asset, but we're going to notify them minutes after something happens.
Sometimes you deal with the government on these issues. Your operation has helped government agencies.
Well, we have a service that government agencies can buy through a networks program, and then we'll help their SOC, their Security Operations Center. So consumers, we did something special for just this year. In March, we launched what we call Bot or Not.
Bot or not? You guys have more programs, bot or not.
Bot or not. So if you have AT&T's internet service and you want to know, hey, is my account, my system, is it participating in any of these bots you're watching? We'll give you the answer, yes or no, right now. You might need to check again later. And if we see that you're participating, we give you those instructions, those tips. Try this yourself. See if you can get your machine where it's not part of this, you know, botnet anymore. And then it goes all the way up to even someone helping you remotely, or depending on where you live, coming and helping you at your own home.
Could someone who doesn't have the technological cyber expertise manage this themselves?
You know, it is complex, okay, and you do have to have some like system administrator type of skills to run the scans, and maybe that one didn't catch anything, and then you run another scan to make sure that the malware is removed. Can you just create another profile? You need to re-image. Re-imaging is pretty heavy duty for your average user, so it does require some technical capability. But in bot or not, we help them. So AT&T people are there.
User-friendly.
To make it easier, absolutely.
By the way, get us up to speed. Well, let's talk about the most advanced threats today.
Okay, so if you follow the progression from worms that kind of sloppily spread, and then these botnet operators, a little craftier, the latest threats, we call them advanced threats, sometimes they call them advanced persistent threats, advanced evasive threats, they really take a different approach. They don't want to make a lot of noise. They don't scan all the addresses out there on the internet. They aren't looking for 1 million targets. They look for a handful. Maybe the person who runs your organization. And they do some homework. What's available publicly on the internet? What can I find out about this person? And then they write usually a phishing message. We call it a spear phishing message because it's written just for that target. And they'll send that message. They'll spoof that it's from somebody they know. Right. The subject makes sense. And if they open it, they put a remote access tool on that machine. So that level of sophistication is what we're referring to as.
How are you dealing with that?
Well, you have a chance to get it when it's coming in mail. You have a chance to do it through user awareness. You know, if something doesn't look right, your people are really very important in all of this. But then we also look back at that network flow data. And we say, you know, do we see activity that looks like data being exfiltrated? Or do we see users, systems talking to what we know to be bad domains that these advanced actors are using? And if you see them using that, that's one of those actionable alerts. You want to go out and take care of that machine right away.
Real quick before I let you go, advice to consumers out there?
Well, I would say don't think that when you connect something to the internet that it's okay. Expect there to be trouble. Expect to get scanned in minutes if you put a machine out on the internet.
You're saying expect that?
Expect that. Expect there to be constant attempts knocking on the door. Think of it as knocking on the door.
Don't be surprised.
Don't be surprised. Expect millions. We see millions and millions of those every day. So you should expect that people are going to be trying to attack anything you put on the internet. And on the business side, if you have internet-facing infrastructure that's important, you need to think about protecting it from denial of service attacks because those are very common. Those who haven't seen one, it's probably just a matter of what day it is that they're going to see one. If you're running email infrastructure, you can expect that day when you're going to get a flood of messages into your email infrastructure. So you should expect those scenarios and even plan for them. You know, have like a disaster plan and exercise it a couple times a year. Come up with more creative, tougher scenarios and try to deal with those.
That's why you guys work 24/7 to stay ahead of these guys. Thank you very much, Michael.
You're very welcome, Steve. Take care.
Appreciate it.
If you would like more information on this program or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, Ph.D.
Dr. Michael Nissenblatt, Associate Director of Medical Oncology, Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital. Good to see you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Put this in context for us. I was looking at the New York Times and I saw a full-page ad about this. It was an award. The Commission on Cancer of the American College of Surgeons awarded the 2012 Outstanding Achievement Award to Robert Wood Johnson. Put that in context. That is an amazingly important award from what I understand, but it's a team award. What does it mean?
Well, the American Society of Surgeons has created a set of guidelines in which they select the finest programs from across the country based upon a set of responsibilities and goals. And these reflect goals regarding leadership of the institution, research, development, and programs, as well as the acquisition of data in our data registry and the translation of that data into improved outcomes, so quality improvement. In the United States, there are 1,500 programs that are approved, but only 79 of them have gotten the ultimate award, meaning that they've not just reached but exceeded more than 30 different subsets of those 4 broad categories of achievement, and therefore they represented remarkable leadership. In the state of New Jersey, there were this year just 5 who met that Outstanding Achievement Award. In the entire state of New York, just 7, and in Pennsylvania, just 3. So our states nearby are also to be commended. The remarkable thing about Robert Wood Johnson's award, though, is that it represents a unique affiliation, a unique congregation between the institution which we work at every day, which is Robert Wood Johnson, and two groups which are flanking them and are responsible for their success.
Is one of them the Cancer Institute of New Jersey?
Well, the Cancer Institute of New Jersey, which was started in 1990, is one of those flanking supporters. And that's the only National Cancer Institute designated institute in the state of New Jersey out of all of the institutions that exist here. And I look upon the physicians who work at the Cancer Institute as clinician scientists, people who take the basic information, the basic knowledge, and do the research in the laboratory, sometimes in animals, sometimes clinical research in humans, but do everything they can to try to translate that to patient care. But they're doing the basic research for care. The second group that flanks Robert Wood Johnson Hospital is the enormous group of remarkably highly qualified and devoted clinician humanists. I consider the clinician humanists to be those doctors in private practice who are committed to taking the information from the Cancer Institute and translating it to the individual patient who can benefit from that in terms of a quality outcome and survival.
Let's break that down. As I was trying to understand this award, and I don't want to make it so much about the award, I want to try to put it in the context of patient outcomes. Because cancer care has evolved tremendously, based largely on technology, research, more information we have. But the outcomes have changed for patients with cancer. I know it depends upon which cancer and which stage and a lot of factors, right?
The outcomes are remarkably different than they were in the past. For example, in 1953, there was a study done at the University of Chicago that only 3% of people with cancer were even informed that they had cancer.
Well, do that again, doctor. Say it the year again.
1953.
Only 3% of those with cancer were informed they had cancer?
We had no treatments. We had no chemotherapy. We had no radiation therapy. We had no way to individualize treatment. We would often take an agent off the shelf and administer it to a patient, trying to get a response. Even Babe Ruth was treated with therapy that was very primitive just a few years before, and soon will be coming up with I guess it's the 56th or 57th year of his death. But we had no treatments at the time, so people were not informed. Only 30% of people were cured at that time. Now, 71 out of every 100 people with all non-skin cancers are cured. And when you look at individual cancers, such as cancer of the breast, most people with cancer of the breast are cured with their disease, even with locally advanced disease. Most people with cancer of the colon are cured, whether they have lymph nodes that are negative or lymph nodes that are positive. One of the big concerns that we've had is that lung cancer has not yet experienced the same kind of burgeoning cure rates as have colon cancer and breast cancer.
Why do you think that is?
But that's because we haven't had some of the information available that we had for the other diseases. For example, we have targets that we can attack for colon cancer and targets that we can attack for breast cancer that we call estrogen receptors or HER2 receptors.
What kind of receptors is the second kind?
These are HER2 receptors, which is a receptor on the surface of breast cancer cells that stimulates the cell to grow. And we have a way of targeting that with a large group of medications now, some of which are called Herceptin, some of them are called lapatinib, and a newer one, which is TDM1. But in lung cancer, we've gotten on a little bit later in the history of the disease. The last 5 years, we have had a tremendous upheaval in lung cancer. We are finding the targets for lung cancer that we now have for breast and we've had for colon cancer. And these targets are things that we can actually isolate, measure, and attack individually, which is the reason that the biology of breast cancer is a crucial structure for us to understand. We can take apart one disease at a time and find an individual treatment for each person. Let me tell you that the modern approach toward treating cancer is not what it was in the past of taking a bomb and waiting for collateral damage.
You mean chemotherapy, heavy radiation chemotherapy, and there's going to be, as you said, collateral damage. While that's still there, what's changed with that?
Now we can select agents which are individually attacking molecules or focused areas of the tumor that open up the sensitivity of that tumor, that expose that tumor's weak sites or weak points and destroy it. I like to think of it as though we were looking for Osama bin Laden in the past before 2012. And when we were searching for him, we would find where he might be and drop a bomb, and we would kill Osama and also a lot of
collateral damage.
But the targeted therapies that we now have represent a way of identifying what cave he is in, finding the specific ventilation ducts, and removing the electricity that activate those ventilation ducts so he's suffocated and there's no collateral damage.
But doctor, in the limited time we have, but it is still always on a case-by-case basis.
It's personalized medicine now, Steve. We have a way of taking each tumor, doing genome-wide assays for the molecules that make that tumor grow, the things that stimulate that tumor, and finding a drug individually active for that patient, not just that tumor. It's a new day. It's a new day in every disease. There is at this time hope for every single malignancies that we are treating. Every single one.
There's hope.
There is extreme hope.
That's not the same as a cure, but there's reason to be hopeful, right?
I think there's reason to consider cure in the overwhelming majority of people who have cancer now.
Doctor, we'll keep talking because this conversation is very important, and thank you so much. We'll keep talking off the air.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, Wells Fargo, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, the law firm of Gibbons PC, Cohn Resnick, and by New Jersey Natural Gas. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. This program has been made possible in part by New Jersey Institute of Technology.
I think at NJIT there are a lot of smart students.
I came to NJIT for mechanical engineering because within state it's one of probably the top 3 schools for engineering.
It sort of creates a friendly competition where you can learn from them.
It's a great academic school.
I feel I'm being challenged, but at the same time I love the classes I'm taking.
The atmosphere of being here is like being at an upstart company. It's that same kind of drive, that same kind of passion.